Hello there, it's Tuesday, August 21, and this is InfoHub. Making the news today, government working to bring relief to teachers can only offer what it can afford. Head of State pays homage to 1823 monument on Demerara Martyrs Day, and we'll tell you more about the Belt and Road Initiative and foreign aid. The details of these stories and more right now. President David Granger says that there is no need for confrontation with teachers as the government is still working on a solution to the ongoing issue. In an article in the Guyana Chronicle today, President David Granger explained the government is working towards an agreement to bring relief to teachers. Here's our first report.
In an article in the Guyana Chronicle today, President David Granger explained the government is working towards an agreement to bring relief to the teachers. The head of state said, and I quote, "We don't want a confrontation. We don't want a clash. We value the services of teachers. I think some of the demands are justifiable, and we provided the funds which could, in our estimation, provide relief to the teachers. Don't forget that over the last 3 years, the salaries of the lowest paid teachers have increased by 50%. So the teachers weren't excluded. They weren't ignored. They weren't omitted." While a high-level committee was established to find a solution, the president said a solution has not yet been found, but his government is not giving up. The high-level committee was put together last November to address salary negotiations and other issues affecting teachers. Matters to be addressed include non-salary issues, allowances, debouncing, and issues highlighted during the COI into the education sector. On August 17, Minister Nicolette Henry met for a second time with the executive of the Guyana Teachers Union. She reiterated the government's commitment to teachers and the education sector.
I want to say to my teachers that the government of Guyana continue to care for you, and we will ensure that as far as possible, you get what we can afford, what is best for you, what is best for the country, and what is best for all of us. We promise a good life for all, and we will work within what we have and the resources available and our fiscal space to ensure that we do what is the best we can do.
The GTU has a proposal of an across-the-board increase in salary of 40% for 2016, 45% in 2017, 50% in 2018, 50% in 2019, and 50% in 2020 be granted to all categories of teachers and educators for the years 2016 to 2020. The Ministry of Education counter-proposal states that the government will make available a ballpark figure to facilitate an increase in salaries for all teachers based on the current salary scale. Government's ballpark figure of $700 million for teachers' salary increases, and the previous proposed $200 million for debouncing for 2018 remains the same. Sunika Thorne, InfoHub.
195 years ago, lives were sacrificed for the freedoms we enjoy today as Guyanese. President Granger on Monday paid homage to the 1823 monument on Demerara Martyrs Day. Tiffany Rogers has the details.
The 1823 Demerara Rebellion was one of the most significant events in slavery's dismantling as a mode of production in the Caribbean, President David Granger said.
The Demerara revolt was suppressed, but it ignited the flame of freedom. News of the bloody suppression of the revolt triggered outrage in Britain. The revolt's role in the passage of the Emancipation Act 10 years after in 1833 is undisputed.
August 20 is designated as Demerara Martyrs Day. More than 200 Africans were massacred during what is considered the largest rebellion in Guyana. More than 11,000 Africans from across 55 plantations along the east coast of Demerara were part of the rebellion, which began on August 18, 1823.
This day and this ceremony remind us that freedom was not an imperial gift, but was won through the sacrifice and the martyrdom of our ancestors. I urge Guyanese to continue to commemorate this event. I urge future generations to remember that freedom was bought at the high price of the martyrdom of hundreds of Africans on the 20th of August, 1823.
The president described August as a month of solemn remembrance and commemoration. August is a reminder that the freedom from enslavement gained 180 years ago was paid for by the martyrdom of our ancestors, the president said. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Greenidge said suggestions in the media that countries signing on to the China Belt and Road Initiative will fall into indebtedness is inaccurate. Stacey Carmichael explains in this report.
The Foreign Affairs Minister and economist explained to avoid indebtedness and to ensure the economy remains stable, countries have to borrow within their economic capacity.
There was a formula economist, a competent economist can tell you that you need to try and ensure that the interest payments that you're incurring when you borrow money to buy that table or to build it, that the interest, the additional interest associated with that borrowing does not increase at a rate more rapid than the income you will get from utilizing the table. The table itself may not generate money directly, but it contributes to the generation of income in future. So you have to make sure that that income that you're expecting is not exceeded by the additional interest charges that you incur.
Minister Greenidge emphasized that countries benefiting from the Belt and Road Initiative and similar forms of aid must examine specific details of the projects they want to undertake.
If the country implements a problem that is not sensible, a project that's not sensible, you have to ask yourself, was it properly conceived? That is not, I'm not saying the donor has no responsibility, but you also have a responsibility. And there may be reasons why the project goes off course. You have to look at those reasons. I suggest that when the press addresses these problems, they ask themselves, has Guyana or the Caribbean or Latin America ever had projects that have gone awry even though the funds didn't originate in China?
The success of any project, Minister Greenidge noted, depends on prudent economic and financial management and not the source of the funds. He added that loans and projects have the potential to go wrong, and in most cases, they go wrong for specific reasons rather than the donor's nationality. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
You know anywhere wrong here sell cigarettes?
I just sell. How much packs you want?
But I see you got no cigarette on display.
Like you in here about the new tobacco control law that passed.
What's that?
It's the law that states that you can't have any cigarettes on display or advertised.
Sell me one cigarette.
Well, the law states that we can't sell you one cigarette nor packs of 10. I could only sell you packs of 20.
Oh, well, I can really got to stop smoking. This thing costing me.
Let's all work together to prevent cigarette smoking related illnesses.
Thanks for staying with us. First Lady Mrs. Sandra Granger has charged the newly elected members of the National Congress of Women to ensure that every Guyanese is targeted in their programs and that the good life is ensured to all. Crystal Stoll has that report.
The First Lady was at the time speaking at the 20th Biennial Convention of the National Congress of Women. She congratulated the NCW's newly elected chair and other executives and encouraged them to be worthy of their positions.
You have the power within you to change the world. I urge you to use that power to help this great country and all of its citizens, wherever they may be, achieve the good life that we all deserve.
Mistress Granger highlighted works done over the years by the NCW and encouraged the new executive to continue the legacy.
This is closely tied to all the other objectives of your party, which believes in the spiritual, social, and economic development of every citizen, regardless of race, religion, or gender. Your party believes that every single one of us deserves a good life. I urge your new executive to justify the faith you have placed in them to grow and strengthen the NCW.
Earlier, First Lady Sandra Granger hosted a luncheon for the international delegates of the NCW and government officials from Cuba and Trinidad and Tobago. This allowed them to meet with members from Women Across Differences, an organization of which she is patron. The gathering also served as an opportunity for members of WAD to share the scope of their work with the special invitees. Crystal Stahl for InfoHub.
Minister of Public Telecommunications Catherine Hughes says the main focus of her ministry has been on training and educating citizens on the use of information and communication technology, ICT. This was expressed during a mid-year review of the sector. Anara Khan tells us more.
The Ministry of Public Telecommunications is not only about just providing the physical internet access and the physical infrastructure at ICT hubs and at ministries, but most importantly, providing the skills and the wherewithal so that our citizens, that our communities can become more and more competent in using ICTs.
The minister said while to date over 135 ICT hubs have been established across the nation, the ministry places a lot of emphasis on training.
We recognize that by 2025, 75% of the jobs in the world would mandate that a person must have some ICT skills. So we have started a very aggressive training program to ensure that our citizens are not left behind.
Programs are also being hosted to enable persons to not only be able to use the equipment, but have knowledge of the back end. Minister Hughes expressed her hope that persons will be inspired to become entrepreneurs.
Everybody, every business needs a website. So once we teach young people how to design a website and to do the back end of it, not just using the website, but actually designing it, launching the website, then it gives them the skills to become their own entrepreneurs, and they can then sell their skills.
The ministry has been hosting youth camps countrywide. These aim to provide youths with basic computer skills as well as teaching them coding and programming skills. For InfoHub, Anna Arakan.
Tiffany Rogers now tells us that Mining Week 2018 began with a symposium which sought to explore how to achieve greater recovery through green mining.
The seminar was hosted by the Ministry of Natural Resources at the Otachung Conference Center. It featured a panel consisting of Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, Conservation International Guyana, the World Wildlife Fund, and the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association. Panelist and mineral processing engineer at GGMC, Quinton Johnson, noted the regulatory body has been exploring various recovery techniques. Johnson added the GGMC will soon be testing the EGOLI process as an alternative to the use of mercury in the mining of gold.
Which in the EGOLI process uses a mixture of a pool of acid, bleach, to leach the gold from the concentrate and to test, and then sodium to precipitate the gold. For the testing, the gold mats on the sluice box, testing of the gold jig, continue testing gold catcher circuit.
Much of the discussion centered around miners understanding the importance of the exploration they are doing, identifying mineral grain sizes, and the best extraction methods. CI Guyana is working with the GGDMA to develop low-impact methods of prospecting. Former Commissioner of the GGMC and GGDMA member and panelist William Wolford noted that miners want to work with the regulatory agencies and other partners towards more green mining.
The miner working, job work type work, he doesn't get any income when the thing doesn't work well. And so the temptation is to stay with inertia and to say, look, I know if I put a sluice box, I'm an expert in sluice box work. If I got enough gold grade there, I can get some gold, I can make a living. And for the change to happen, we have got to put the technical assistance and the financial assistance in place so the experimentation could be done, the site-specific work could be accomplished, and move on with it.
Conservation International and WWF also shared their upcoming projects. CI's El Dorado Gold Project will work with artisanal and small-scale miners in Regions 8 and 9 to explore mercury-free mining by 2025 along the supply chain from prospectors to producers. The WWF project will see the demonstration of mercury-free extraction models and sharing of mercury data on a regional level. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
Please remember that tomorrow, August 22, is a public holiday as the Muslim community observes Eid ul-Adha. This is the time when they recall the fate of the Prophet Ibrahim. Eid Mubarak to all. More news and updates can be found on our website and social media. We leave you now with the results for the latest CPL matches and your bridge and weather reports. Goodbye.